If there were some magical pill you could take every morning that would make you more focused, less stressed by the little things, feel better, sleep better, and make your adipose tissue more active, would you take it? Huh? How much is it? Funny you should ask. Don't cost a dime. Only time. Yo! What is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftingbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today, we are talking about the pure magic that ensues from exerting your badonkadonk in an intentional and methodical way, and why the time of day that you do it might modulate some interesting things as well. Ultimately concluding with walking through the reasons why I personally take my magic pill in the morning. But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to too. Because as I've stated a million times, and I'll state a million times again, the best exercise is the exercise you can consistently do. And that spans across the entire 12 to 16 hour daylight cycle. And I say daylight because just like every other bodily process we have operating within our pretty cool meat suit, our response to exercise seems to differ across different types of tissue depending on what time of day it is. Meaning its efficacy and effectiveness may be boosted or dampened by our circadian rhythms, or the natural ebb and flow of biological processes which are governed by the world we've evolved in. Cues from the environment such as sunlight, darkness, food, and, wouldn't you know it, movement. So in this magic pill adventure, we'll also be reviewing some new hot off the scientific press research, exploring how exercise timing modulates adipose tissue metabolism, aka fat tissue, in a very interesting way, likely driven by these aforementioned rhythms that have evolved with us primates for the better half of 30 to 50 million years. So surprisingly, not surprising. But before we get there, we gotta make a little commotion for the pill. The magic pill that we all have access to, exercise. Because I can almost guarantee that you do not understand all the effects of its spell on short-term health and long-term longevity. And although it's safe to say that there is no that was easy button when it comes to creating an optimal internal cellular and metabolic state to promote both present-day health and long-term vitality, the closest thing to that would probably be daily exercise. Because it is a straight-up longevity-boosting beast of an intervention. It builds and preserves muscle mass, offsetting scarpopenia, or the natural deterioration of muscle as we age. A huge driver of health issues as we accrue chronological years. It also keeps us mobile and flexible, which are two overlooked yet critical components of both short-term health and long-term longevity. Both of which, if you don't move it, you lose it. It also happens to be the best mood-boosting prescription there is, releasing natural endorphins, cannabinoids, and opioids which boost mood, reduce anxiety, decrease stress, and alleviate pain. Oh, and if you want more energy, look no further. It is quite literally the best thing that you can do to preserve the health of your energy-producing organelles, mitochondria, boosting their efficiency, stimulating the creation of new ones, while cleaning up the weak, damaged, and leaky via a process called mitophagy. And while on the topic of important stuff, our heart is an exercise groupie, as it improves cardiovascular function, dilates blood vessels, reduces stress, and makes our heart more efficient. And it just so happens that cancer is the opposite of a groupie, as exercise has shown to create a biochemical internal environment that stifles its growth and proliferation. Moving to everyone's favorite 5-pound mushy membrane, it's been shown to activate neurons in the hippocampus, the learning and memory region of the brain, while also acting as a potent stimulator of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is a growth factor that promotes the creation of new neuronal connections, priming the brain for learning. And if you thought that was a lot, there's more. It reduces the risk of longevity liability numero uno, chronic inflammation, by stimulating a long-term anti-inflammatory response throughout the body. It improves our metabolic function by making our cells more glucose tolerant and insulin sensitive. And we cannot forget its major role in detoxifying the body, stimulating our natural detoxification system, the lymphatic system, which is heavily reliant on movement, upregulating the secretion of sweat, and ramping up our cellular recycling program, autophagy. Talk about a powerful pill. All these topics, might I add, we have full deep dives into on this channel, the links of which will be in the show notes below. Moral of the story is, movement is medicine. Secret, longevity medicine. And the more you do it, the better. Period, full stop. Now, knowing all that, what are the more optimal times to do this badonka-donking? That, sounded a little dirty. You trying to get me canceled, production team? And to answer this question, I must pose another one. What are your goals? Because the research indicates that there seem to be two sweet spot times for optimizing the impact of exercise. This is based off something called our chronobiology, or the time of day our body tends to be most optimized to carry out certain activities. These two times are early morning and late afternoon, before dinner. And although working out during either are super beneficial, remember, any movement is good movement, each brings some unique potential to the table. Early workouts will help wake you up by getting the blood flowing, the nervous system activated, the lymphatic system stimulated, and endorphins pumping, setting you up for a productive day. However, this timing does not seem to be most optimal for max strength, as early afternoon seems to be the time in which muscle tone rises to its daily highs, potentially putting one in a better position to smash those personal records. But that certainly doesn't mean you can't be super successful building and maintaining muscle with AM workouts. Again, it's all about your goals and lifestyle variables. Everything has a trade-off, and that also happens to go for fat burn as well, at least according to this new animal data. Let's explore. Researchers out of Karolinska Institute in Sweden sought to see how the time of day in which exercise is performed affects the burning of fat. To do this, they studied the adipose tissue of mice after a session of high-intensity exercise at 2 points across the daily cycle: their early active phase and early rest phase, corresponding to late morning and late evening sessions in humans. Throughout this study, they tracked various markers of fat metabolism and analyzed what genes were active in adipose tissue after exercise. So, what'd they find? Well, first, that physical activity in the early active phase increased the expression of genes involved in the breakdown of adipose tissue, thermogenesis, aka heat production, and mitochondria within the adipose tissue, indicating a higher metabolic rate. Interestingly, these effects were only observed in the mice who exercised during the early active phase and were independent of food intake. But I can't help but wonder, because we talk about this topic so much on this channel, could it be that the mice working out fasted was the underlying reason for this outcome? Just so happens, researchers had the same question. So they fasted some mice in both groups before the exercise intervention and found that feeding status did in fact affect the expression of glucose and fatty acid metabolic genes in adipose tissue. However, fasting did not repeat the overall genetic expression response in the early rest group when compared to the early active group, suggesting that feeding status is secondary to time of day as a regulator of exercise-induced genetic activity in adipose tissue. Those circadian rhythms at it again, at least in mice, who have very similar biological processes as us humans, but are not, in fact, human. So as always, more human-based research is needed to reinforce these findings. Now, I can personally say this is not the reason that I choose to go hard and heavy with my movement in the morning. In fact, it's got nothing to do with it at all. Let me explain. First and foremost, whatever time you work out, if you do not combine it with prioritizing high-quality circadian aligned sleep, you will be leaving a ton of cellular upside on the table. So aiming to give yourself a 8-hour sleep opportunity each and every night is critical, not only for maximizing the beneficial adaptations of exercise, but for all things cellular and metabolic within your body. So sacrificing sleep to get up early and work out is counterproductive. Instead, just readjust your schedule to accommodate both. Another big focal area when it comes to maximizing your movement protocol and the cellular response within is prioritizing high-quality protein, a topic that we outline and walk through in this video here. Aiming for a daily consumption of 0.8 grams per pound of body weight is a good guideline which fits within 2 standard deviations of most people's goals. Plain facts of the matter are, a large percentage of the population is not consuming enough protein to optimize their cellular longevity. So be a rebel and do just that. Alright, now here are the main reasons I choose to get after it in the morning. And yes, many are personal preferences. First, it's important to point out that my goals are to keep my pretty cool meat suit and 5-pound mushy membrane feeling good and operating efficiently for as long as humanly possible. Not to put on massive amounts of muscle or compete at a professional level in some sport or activity, but to maximize efficient operations as long as possible. I say this because goals changes the protocol. So the best place to start always is by identifying your goals. With that, here's my morning rationale. First, morning movement kickstarts my body. As we talked about earlier in this video, movement entrains our circadian rhythms. So even if the sun isn't up, moving your body will send the signal from the periphery to your brain that it's daytime and to upregulate daytime gene expression and bodily processes. I take a methodical and consistent movement approach each and every morning, which we break down here. But essentially, I start with light yoga and stretching, moving into a very intense strength and cardio circuit, and then cool down with a stretch and a sauna. Well, figurative, cool down. And this protocol stimulates a number of physiological and biochemical things that I fancy. First, it stimulates that in-house detoxification highway, the lymphatic system, which is a series of nodes, tissues, and organs that collect and filter out toxins from the body. And unlike the other full body flow system, the cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system doesn't have a master pump. So how do we stimulate it? With movement. And what better time to do it than after 8 hours of high quality lying down time? Next, morning movement hacks my biochemistry in a way that increases my odds, likelihood, and probability of having a damn day. Because every time we exert ourselves physically, a flurry of bioactive compounds gets released that improve mood, prime the brain for learning, reduce chronic stress, and neutralize unwarranted inflammation. And in my eyes, it's a no-brainer that I want all of these things to start my day. It makes it harder for those little micro stressors, work problems, family craziness, a-holes on the road to get to you and stimulate a negative, chronic psychological stress response. And getting a little more personal and specific, another key reason why I like to work out early in the morning is because I eat early, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. each and every day, all for longevity reasons which I break down here. I personally enjoy working out fasted, typically 18 plus hours, hoping to stimulate a little extra boost in cellular cleanup processes such as autophagy and mitophagy, where the cell self-recycles weak, damaged, leaky parts that could potentially cause problems over time, while also knowing that in combination with exercise, new mitochondria are being created. The fasted workout will also help with metabolic flexibility, or the body's ability to easily transition from a glucose burning state to a fat burning state. Finally, I just personally find that working out in the morning leaves me feeling effing accomplished. And I love it. The day could go to complete and total shit, and I always have that to fall back on. I live by the motto, control what you can control. And waking up and getting after it before the world starts bugging me is one of those things. For these reasons, I take my magic pill in the morning and defer to a late afternoon post-meal walk and evening stretch for my later activities. But hey, this is just what works for me and can 100% be the total opposite of what works for you. And that's fine. There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to intentionally performing an intervention that was simply a way of life for our ancestors. In this sedentary day and age, all movement is great movement, with exception of overdoing it. Remember rule number 1 of exercise: don't get hurt. And if you could avoid it, you don't want to plan your exercise extremely close to bedtime, as this can impact sleep quality and thus offset the cellular potential of the protocol. Other than that, take some time and noodle on your ideal schedule. Something that balances family, work, social life, goals, and all other values that you hold close to you. We said it once and we'll say it a million more times. Any movement is great movement, and the best exercise is the exercise you can consistently do. I mean, what other magic potion on the market is free 99? Likely increasing not only your duration, but quality of time on this beautiful floating rock. Oh, and also, make you look cool naked. You know, now that I think of it, I'm surprised something like this hasn't been canceled yet. Let's just keep this magic pill between us.